So, I had originally planned to put together a longer, more detailed video about Klay Thompson and the Megan Thee Stallion situation, but I decided against it. Instead, I just want to speak directly to the brothers today and get some thoughts off my chest. By now, most of you have probably seen the clips circulating online. Black women on social media talking about wanting to put a spell on Klay Thompson for allegedly cheating on Megan Thee Stallion, wishing failure on every aspect of his life, calling all athletes cheaters, digging through his past. And this is all happening shortly after this man reportedly gifted her a Bentley, reportedly purchased outright in cash. The level of backlash being directed at him right now is frankly hard to ignore. Now, I want to be clear, this is not a blanket statement about all black women. That's not what this conversation is. But what I do want to address is a specific pattern of behavior that honestly is going to hurt a lot of sisters in the long run when it comes to attracting and keeping professional black men. Here's what I noticed. Whenever a high-profile black woman makes allegations against a partner, think back to Tia Mowry and Corey Hardrick, or when Devon Franklin filed for divorce from Megan Good. The response from certain corners of the internet gets ugly fast. In Franklin's case, he was bombarded with homophobic slurs simply for walking away from his marriage. And now that same energy, that same misandry, is being aimed directly at Klay Thompson. And here's the part that really stands out to me. When a woman makes public allegations against a man, whether they're true or not, he essentially cannot defend himself. The moment he speaks up, the moment he tries to tell his side of the story, he's suddenly painted as weak, defensive, or unstable. Even if he had a legitimate reason for ending the relationship, even if he caught her doing something worth addressing, he doesn't get to say that publicly without paying a social cost. That's the trap, and it's one that professional men are very aware of. Now, think about this from the other direction. When a man ends a relationship with a woman because she cheated and then he goes public about it, expresses his pain, puts his emotions out there, women are often the first ones to call him emotional, to say he's not being a man, to mock him for not just sitting there and taking the public dragging. Guys who refuse to just sit there and take the public dragging, guys like Safari, for example, get labeled as messy or soft just for defending themselves. So let's be honest about the double standard here. Safari will speak up. Klay Thompson can't, and I know it eats at him, but he has no real choice. Which brings me to the second thing a man in his position has to do. Act as if none of it touches him. Just absorb it, smile through it, and if he ever does address it publicly, he has to be measured, gracious, and professional. He has to say something like, "I wish her nothing but the best. Things just didn't work out." Even while he's being dragged across social media, even while his name is being attached to allegations he may have a very different perspective on. He's forced to take the hit quietly and show grace to someone who isn't extending him any in return. And I know some people are going to say I'm reaching with what I'm about to say next, but I'm going to say it anyway because I think it's the truth. This is one of the core reasons why so many successful black men who have worked hard to build something real, end up drifting away from dating black women altogether. Not because they don't love black women, not because they don't find black women attractive, but because of moments exactly like this one. Because when things go wrong, the public fallout can be overwhelming, unforgiving, and nearly impossible to navigate without permanent damage to your reputation. Now, every group of women has its issues. That's not the argument. But in my honest observation, when relationships fall apart across different demographics, it tends to be handled with more privacy, less spectacle. The situation fades, life moves on, nobody's trending for a week straight. And for a professional man with a career, a brand, and a public image to protect, that difference matters enormously. And to be clear, not every black woman operates this way, not even close. You have women like Angela Simmons who carry themselves with class, handle their personal lives with dignity, and never make private pain into public entertainment. That kind of woman exists, but so does the other kind. And Klay Thompson, honestly, probably should have read the room earlier. When you look at the fan base, when you look at the public personas of certain entertainers, Megan Thee Stallion, Summer Walker, the energy surrounding them should tell you something about what the fallout might look like if things go south. The fan base alone is a preview. And that's part of why it becomes harder for black women, particularly those in entertainment, to build and sustain relationships with high-achieving black men, because the risk calculation changes when the potential consequences are this loud and this public.
Look at Corey Hardrick right now. He's not making headlines. He's not on anyone's timeline. Tia Mowry has moved on publicly, and if that relationship she's in now ever hits a rough patch, there will likely be drama attached to it. Meanwhile, Corey is living quietly, and I'd be genuinely surprised if he's not seeing someone. But whoever she is, you're probably not going to find out soon, because he learned. He went private, and if I had to guess the demographic,
Whoever he's spending time with, don't be surprised if she doesn't look like the women who put him through that public storm. And then comes the question that always follows. Why won't successful black men come back and date black women? Here's the honest answer. There's a psychological concept called horizontal hostility. The theory holds that people from the same community, sharing similar backgrounds, similar experiences, similar cultural reference points, often harbor more friction and resentment toward each other than they do toward outsiders. It's the same dynamic that partly explains why intra-community violence tends to be higher. Familiarity doesn't always breed comfort. Sometimes it breeds tension, because when you truly know someone's world, you also know exactly to hold against them. And that theory, in my view, holds up, because when a black man of a certain stature watches something like the Klay Thompson situation unfold, he doesn't always respond with nuance. He doesn't sit back and say, well, not all black women are like that. Some of them look at it and say, see, that's what happens, and then they use it to justify a decision they may have already been leaning toward. That's the real damage here, not just to Klay Thompson's image, but to the broader conversation about why the gap keeps widening and why so many brothers who genuinely love black women are quietly choosing a different path to protect their peace. Brothers have been watching this play out for years, and the pattern keeps repeating itself. And when some people make the argument that non-black women, whether white, Latina, or otherwise, tend to handle breakups more privately, more quietly, with less public spectacle, that observation doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from watching situations exactly like this one unfold over and over again. That's the honest conversation a lot of people are afraid to have. And here's what a lot of people don't realize. Successful black men are always watching. They observe. When a high-profile person comes out of a relationship or a divorce, other people in that same circle take note. How did she carry herself when it ended? Did he keep it private, or did he put everything on the internet? Did she maintain her dignity, or did she weaponize the breakup for attention and sympathy? Because if you're a man with options, real options, that behavior becomes part of how you make your next decision. When you're Klay Thompson, when you're operating at that level, you have choices most men don't have. And I'll be straightforward here. A lot of successful black men are simply not willing to take on the risk of a public fallout like this. Not because they don't love black women, not because they've abandoned their community, but because when you've worked that hard to build something, you become extremely careful about what and who could threaten it. If a man can find a situation that comes with less chaos, less public exposure, and more privacy when things don't work out, he's going to lean in that direction. That's just reality. And that's what's actually happening right now. Quietly, across the board. Men with means are making calculated decisions, and when people call it selling out, they're often missing the real reason behind it. It's not always about preference. A lot of the time, it's about protection. Protecting your peace, protecting your name, protecting everything you've built. I actually have a friend back in the States who loves black women, genuinely, but he refuses to date black American women specifically. When he's home, he keeps to himself entirely on that front. When he travels internationally, completely different story. And I've asked him directly, why won't you even try? And his answer is always the same. I just don't have the bandwidth for it. Short, simple, final. That one conversation tells you more than 100 think pieces ever could. So brothers, take note of what's happening here. Not with anger, not with judgment, just with clarity. Because awareness is always the first step. That's all for today. This is your boy Shady Jackson, back with another episode of Slippery Junk. I appreciate every one of you tuning in. Hit that bell so you never miss an episode. We're out.